Hey, this is Greg at JTech. We're going to go through how to service an AC system today for any problems. We're going to be working on this Bluebird bus right here. It's got this Caterpillar engine in it. The first thing that we want to do is we want to locate where the compressor is. Typically that's going to have service tags that'll let you know what type of refrigerant, how many pounds of refrigerant, and what type of oil and how many ounces of oil that you need. So we're going to go find the air compressors in this bus right now, and there's none. That's the problem. Case closed. Alright, we're actually going to be working on this military Freightliner powered by a Detroit diesel. Like I said, first we want to do is we want to find our air compressor, or excuse me, our AC compressor. I've identified it right here. You can tell by the clutch assembly right there. It's electromagnetic clutch. And we're going to look for the lines coming off of it and find our service fittings. We got a high side and a low side. And we brought our AC refrigerant machine out here. So we're going to go ahead and show you how to get hooked up. So on your AC service machine, you have two lines, coded blue and red. So these are for your high side, meaning the high pressure side of your AC system, and the low side, the low pressure side of your AC system. Now, they only go on one way. They will not interchange. There's no way you can mess this up. This is made extremely foolproof. So we're going to go ahead, we're going to get these guys hooked on up. We're going to read the pressures in our AC system right now. When you put these fittings on, you always want to screw these down. This is what opens up the Schrader valves inside your AC lines and lets you get actual refrigerant flow between the machine and the AC system that you're working on. Another way you can always identify where these two are going to go, aside from their coloration and aside from what fitting they go on, is the size of the lines. So you can see this high pressure side is a much smaller metal line, and this low pressure side is a much wider, higher volume line. So we're going to hop on down from here. We're going to come over to the refrigerant machine. And no matter what the issue was with this AC system when we brought it in, there's always three things we need to do that's on every AC refrigerant machine. We're always going to at some point recover, always at some point going to vacuum, and always at some point going to be charging. We've got our gauges right here that tell us what's going on inside the AC system. Right now, we can tell that they're closed. So we need to open them up so that we can tell what's going on in the AC system. Now with truck running, we'll be able to look at what kind of pressures we have going on inside this AC system. And we're also given what's called a PTR chart, or a pressure to temperature relationship chart. And that lets us know, depending upon what type of refrigerant we're using, in this case, R134A, that we would have a certain pressure on the low side and a certain pressure on the high side for what temperature it is outside. Right now what we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and recover the system, pull all the refrigerant out that we can. That way we can open the system up and make any kind of repair. So we're going to say recover. It'll double check the pressures for us. And now it's going to go ahead and we're going to pull down every bit of every bit of refrigerant out of this AC system that we can. We'll bring you back to it whenever it's done. Now while we're vacuuming this down, there's a couple things that you can be looking at. Obviously we got a little bit of time here, 2 minutes and 6 seconds to go. We can be looking at our gauges, and something that we're going to check out is looking at the high side. Alright, we're at 0. Good, because we're trying to evacuate all the refrigerant out of the system. Looking at the low side, where we're primarily pulling from, you can see we're actually beneath 0. We're already in a vacuum. We're looking at about negative 28 Hg, and that's pretty good. Deep vacuum is somewhere around 30 to 32 Hg. So to already be down there, we know that either this system has already been recovered or evacuated, or that it was already low, and extremely low at that, on refrigerant. So that can be helpful in part of your diagnosis. But at this point, whenever you are recovering, you should have already diagnosed your problem, whether it's a leak in a line somewhere, something of that nature that's going to cause you to remove all the excess refrigerant and open up the system to do a repair. So once this recovery is done, we'll show you how to go into the system, make any kind of repair, and then get it ready to refill with refrigerant. Alright, now we can see that the recovery is still in progress, but we're clearing right now, meaning we're finishing up. We've recovered about 5 ounces of refrigerant out of the system. So now at this point, we're going to go ahead and close off our valves whenever that gives us the okay to. And then we'll be able to go into the AC system, replace any lines, any bad Schrader valves, anything of that nature that would have caused us to have to do a repair in the first place. Make that repair, and then we'll be right back to show you how to do a vacuum. Okay, we've made our repair on the truck. Now we're going to come back to the machine and get ready to do a vacuum. As you can see, we've had the valves closed here this entire time. And we're also being warned to check the oil bottle. So we always come down here, we need to know our oil before and after the recovery. That way we know how much oil we pulled out. Now granted, only being 5 ounces of refrigerant that we pulled, probably not going to pull much more than an ounce of any kind of oil out. Knowing what type of oil also will help you out whenever you're ready to do it, finish up the service. Whenever you're ready. Alright, so now we've got our gauges back open, our lines back open. We're going to go ahead and go into a vacuum. That's going to tell us, hey, we're low on refrigerant. Do we want to fill the tank? For the demonstration purposes today, we're not going to go ahead and refill our tank. So we're just going to say no. We're going to go ahead and pull a vacuum on this. It's going to check the pressures for us. We're going to say vacuum for 10 minutes. Should be good since we're already in a vacuum on our low side gauge. So we're going to hit start to go ahead and begin our vacuum. Now in this 10-minute time, you can go ahead, take care of some paperwork or things of that nature in the shop environment. This gives you a little bit of time to catch up on the job. So in about 10 minutes, I'll see you back here and show you how to recharge the system. Alright, so now we've pulled a vacuum. As we can see right here, we are all the way down to minus 30 Hg, and that's actually where our gauge stops. So what we would do is we would want to take some time and just let this sit, see if we lose any kind of vacuum. About 15 minutes or so should be good enough to make sure our repair is effective, and at that point we could start recharging. Again, for today's purposes, we're going to go ahead and we're going to recharge it. So we got our limit in the tank. Refrigerant is at 6 ounces, and they ask again, do we want to fill the tank before we recharge? Again, since we're demonstrating, we're going to say no. We're going to go down here to charge. Now, it's going to let us know how much do we want to charge. We're saying 2 pounds at this point. Charge changes the unit, arrow changes the amount, and start to begin. We don't want to change too much. What we want to do is we want to pull down to 0 pounds.
You rotate trucks. No,
and since we know we only had 6 ounces, I'm just going to go to 3. And then we're going to say charge. And start. Now, it says do not disturb the machine at this point. Reason being, inside this machine is a tank that sits on a calibrated scale. And that's what this machine uses to calibrate the charge that we put in there. It physically weighs the difference in the tank in as little as ounces. So we're going to let this finish up. There we go. Now we're going to go ahead and say start after we remove our hoses to equalize them. We can see we got pressure in the system again. We're going to close these off. And we're going to remove these lines.
What's wrong? Why is the screen black? It's not.
Now at this point, before we put our hoses away, we need to equalize them. It's an EPA regulation that we have to follow. We're going to hit start to equalize. sterilize these. Now we're pulling our hoses down. As you can see, our gauges are going to empty. That our hoses are in vacuum and the machine is happy, we're going to go ahead and put them back on their proper fittings to store them. Alright, and at this point we're just going to exit out by saying any key. So we're going to store these away. There you go, that's your basic AC service with a refrigerant machine. Thanks.